AWS Certified Solutions Architect Associate. I finally cleared my exam on October 22nd, 2024, exactly a week ago from the day I'm filming this video, and I can't be happier to finally put together my usual after certification video for you, to share my tips and tricks, to share my take of the examination process and preparation process. So a quick recap: I started my certification journey not with AWS but overall in 2018 with certified associate in project management certification from PMI, CAPM it's called shortly, and then I went on to get CompTIA A+, Network Plus and Security Plus. And from CompTIA, I also have Linux Plus. And with AWS, I have my first certification was Cloud Practitioner certification. I got it in November 2021, exactly a month before my Cloud Practitioner certification status expiration. I finally passed AWS Solutions Architect Associate. Well, I scored 793 out of 1000, which would be the maximum score. And the score needed was 720, the passing score. On Cloud Practitioner, I scored a bit more, but I'm still okay with my score. I'm not completely satisfied because I would think I obviously answered more questions correctly, but it is what it is. The most important thing that I passed. So during this video, I collected your questions about preparation, about potential tips and tricks, and about my takes of the exam. So let's go through everything. I took my exam online, and all of my certification exams before, except with the very first one, I was taking online. So I have more or less experience in online examinations. If you want to watch my video about my journey with Cloud Practitioner, watch this. I had a video immediately after passing it. And if you want to gain more experience to find out more about online exams, watch this video about Pearson online exams. But during this exam, something that never happened to me before happened, and we will get to it a bit later. So I had 65 questions, 2 hours and 10 minutes to answer those questions, registration excluded, obviously the time that you take to take a photo of your desk, of your setup, that time is not included. My exam wasn't on this desk. I took it at another desk and I cleared it from monitors, from everything possible. And it was just my passport. It was a transparent glass with water, similar to this one, and my charging cable. I think I didn't have a mouse, but there were no monitors. I really urge you to read T&Cs before going to the exam. With in-person exams, it's much easier because whenever something is wrong, they will tell you right away. But with online exams, you need to know the T&Cs, because a couple of weeks ago, I read a post saying that someone's husband was banned from AWS online exams because he was using touch screen to answer the questions. And apparently, according to terms and conditions of Pearson online examinations, you can't use touch screen. So these are very small details that you need to take into consideration before taking the exam, because they might usually not cancel it, but afterwards you might be banned, which is something obviously all of us want to avoid. I might understand you if you're taking online exam. You might be very far from the examination center. In order for me to go to examination center, I need to pay a train fare, I need to pay parking to park at train station, and etc, etc. So all these expenses adds up. That's why I personally prefer to take the certification at home. And yeah, it has its own drawbacks and advantages. I started my preparation for the exam in June 2023, but I wouldn't take this information too close to your heart, because you might think, oh my God, she took more than a year to prepare. That wasn't true. You don't need a year to prepare for this examination. Again, because of my personal circumstances, because I had a baby, I was on maternity leave, my preparation was on and off. I would watch a couple of videos, I would do some research, and then I would stop. I would make a pause, for a couple of weeks pause sometimes. So it wasn't a serious preparation. More serious preparation started from August 2024. It's when I would dedicate all my available time, which is a scarce resource when you have a child, when you're in a full-time job. But I tried my best from August 2024. So at least in average, I would spend an hour and a half on AWS preparation. I would watch preparation resources, I would do practice tests, and I would of course do a hands-on. I would practice a bit and would read through the AWS FAQs. I know you're all waiting for this information, what I have used for preparation. I'm using my phone for notes because I prepared the structure for you. I used Stefan Marek's preparation course on Udemy. This is not the first time I'm using him, I'm working with him. I used his course for my cloud practitioner exam and I was very happy with it. Then I decided to purchase his course for solutions architect as well. And I used his practice exams and his preparation videos. But I know that other platforms like Cloud Guru, for example, offer other courses to prepare for this exam. I'm sure LinkedIn Learning has a course on that too. So you might just check what fits you, because sometimes when I choose an instructor and he is very popular, it was the case for Linux Plus. You might see it in my video about Linux Plus. It's just his teaching style wouldn't be for me. But with Stefan Marek, because I really liked his teaching style, it was very on point, I decided to use him again. And this was the only preparatory resource in terms of the videos that I used, only Stefan Marek's course. Along with that, for every product mentioned in the exam objectives, I was reading FAQs. For example, very basic, there is an EC2. And for EC2, you can read FAQs, right? There is a long web page for EC2 FAQs, EBS FAQs, you name it, cloud formation FAQs, with different use cases that they cover there. When it comes to practice questions, I would advise you to start with practice questions as early as possible, because after some of my experience with certifications, I consciously tell myself that you should start practice tests early, because then you find out that they're very difficult, or you learn something and then you forget that information, and it's just practice tests help you to remember it. And each time I still spend a lot of time learning and start practice tests later. It's not a bad thing when you have more time, but it's not always helpful, because when you start practice tests, especially for this exam, you're gonna be very surprised, because every practice test is difficult to some extent, and it's very long, and it contains a lot of different details of a scenario. I would advise you to look at the practice tests early on. We will get a bit later where the practice tests help you for the exam. FAQs I mentioned, and what helped me also is job experience. So by the time I was passing this certification, I obviously continue working full-time and I gain more experience. So some of the scenarios covered in this certification were not new to me. I already knew this from my day-to-day work. This is not too important if you don't have the similar work experience. It doesn't mean that you're not gonna pass this exam. This is not true, but it still helped me to give me a nudge forward in certain questions and certain scenarios. And now let's go to the specifics of the questions, because I can't share you obviously what type of questions I had. I can only draw some comparisons. So if we compare AWS questions of this specific exam with CompTIA, CompTIA sometimes tries to trick you. So you have to read between the lines. You have to make logical conclusions from what you read. At least when I was taking CompTIA exams, that was the case. Sorry, CompTIA, it is what it is. But with AWS, I find that they word their questions very clearly. So their goal, they're not trying to trick you with the questions. So some exams, many questions are designed to trick the student, so that the student can think it is something else while it's different thing, and maybe fail the exam, or exams want you to be more attentive. That's probably coming from Stone Age. But AWS doesn't try to trick you, and I really like it about them. They're playing this game in a plain text. They're not trying to encrypt their questions. Their questions are clearly worded. They give the clear instruction, clear information about the scenario. And I really like it. It's a very good thing about them. So if you think that they will try to trick you, No, it's unlikely to happen. But does it mean that their questions are easy? No, not at all. But at least you are clear here, because if English is not your native language and the exam is trying to trick you, then it doesn't help at all, because like you might understand it differently and it might be harder for you to make some logical conclusions when you're not a native speaker. Although I'm sure all of us have a more or less good or advanced level of English if we're attempting this exam. So the questions were clearly worded. One of the questions that came from you: is it significantly, mildly or lightly more difficult than Cloud Practitioner exam, the Solutions Architect exam? I would say it's certainly mildly more difficult, because in Cloud Practitioner they would check if you know what the service do. So for example, they would check if you know what CloudFormation does in a very basic scenario, or they would ask you right away, like, we need this. We need something that does caching CDN. What do we do? What do we use? CloudFormation. And I remember even now, after almost 3 years, then once I passed Cloud Practitioner exam, after the exam, I was still wondering whether I answered some of the questions correctly or incorrectly. So I started Googling some of the services. Just an example, let's say CloudFront. And when I Googled the services, I saw that the question, the wording, actually came from the main page of the service. Like, for example, CloudFormation is a service that does this and this. And the question was worded exactly in the same way. Which service does this and this? CloudFormation. It was easy as that, right? So obviously, if you don't know about the service, if you don't know about basic use case, I'm telling about basic use case, like very, very basic, then you're gonna pass Cloud Practitioner. With Solutions Architect, it was different. You would not get any questions, almost next to no questions about basic definitions of the services. You would get mildly difficult scenario questions. So we have this, we have that, and how we can get from the Himalaya to London. Yes, it was clearly worded, but you should be able to use your logic. You should be able to use your logic on top of your knowledge of the use cases and of the services, and they give all these details. So these exams are obviously not the same. They're not even supposed to be the same, and they are more difficult. And if you're trying to attempt the second exam, the Solutions Architect, it's more interesting because you get further into finding out more about their services. This was the first exam for which I printed exam objectives, but I never read them, because I find that AWS is not very good in putting together exam objectives. CompTIA is much better at doing that, because with CompTIA exam objectives, I will go through each objective, I will highlight it with a highlighter, but with AWS, they are very generic, whatever it is in the objectives. And although Stefan Marek in his course, he covers some additional services like Amazon Poly, Transcribe, etc., he never added it to his practice questions, and I can't recall really many questions about those services. So this is something for you just to know in comparison to Cloud Practitioner. Time was enough, but just like with practice exams of Stefan Marek, I was very, very tired through the exam, because every question, imagine 65, there are 65 questions, and you go through 65 very different scenarios and you get so tired. So although like I finished the questions, like the first run, within an hour and 10 minutes, like 70 minutes. So I had another hour to review the questions, right? Well, it was just enough to review the questions and to answer 2 or 3 questions that I didn't answer during my first run. But again, you get very tired. By the end of the exam, I just wanted to sleep. It was just too much. With practice exams, it's the same. One practice exam would take me 3 hours, because I would use 2 hours to answer the questions and then 1 hour to review all the questions, to go through correct questions and incorrect questions. So this is something for you to remember. I passed my Cloud Practitioner exam in 2021. In 2021, once I passed the exam, I got my results displayed on the screen immediately. And that was the case with CompTIA, with AWS, and etc. Apparently, at some point in late 2021 or 2022, AWS changed the rules and you can't see your results right after the exam. After the exam, when I saw the screen saying that you will receive your results in 5 working days, I was like, oh my God, this is so stressful. This is so disappointing, because I was waiting to announce it to my friends, to my in my Instagram, everywhere. But now I can't do this because I don't know my result. And I obviously was a bit disappointed. You can hear it, you can feel it from my voice. And the whole day I kept checking my email. I was going to Outlook, refreshing, going to Outlook, refreshing. And then I was going to my AWS profile and refreshing again. When am I gonna see the results? And it was a stressful wait. And then in 10 hours, I received my results. I took the exam at 10 a.m. in the morning. And at around 7:10 p.m., I saw my results. I received an email, right, from AWS. And then I also saw it in my AWS account in exam history. That exam was added as pass. This is something new. But obviously it can take longer for you to get your results. It's not necessarily 10 hours. For some people it can be the next day, and for others it can be in 3 working days. You can come across all sorts of different responses on Reddit. Well, what happened to me during this exam? You know that during my AWS Cloud Practitioner exam, I tried to use my work computer to pass it, because my personal computer is MacBook Air with a smaller display, and I had my MacBook Pro with the big display, right? So I decided to use that one, obviously, and Pearson OnView's application blocks your screen completely, so that all applications need to close and you can't access anything. Well, it didn't work out, because antivirus, anti-malware software doesn't close on your work computer. That's how it works. I couldn't take the exam in the beginning. I was very stressed. I was thinking that, oh my God, that's it. I spent money. It's $100, I know, but it's still a lot of money. And then I called them and they said, okay, yeah, we see that you can't connect. Just quickly set up your personal laptop and connect. And that's what I did. I immediately changed the laptops, connected my laptop to the power plug, to the charger, and that's how I started. This time, obviously, I didn't make that mistake. Just like with Linux Plus, I didn't make that mistake. And this time, when I was logging in to my AWS account through Safari in order to go to Pearson wouldn't load. I would just see loading, literally loading word, and that's it. That's all it was. And it was a bit suspicious, because like, how much can you wait? I waited 3 minutes and it was still loading. I refreshed everything. I restarted my computer. I opened Safari again and it was the same. Then, in order to check if it's true on my core work laptop, I opened my work laptop, I entered the website, and it was okay. I could enter Pearson there. I was like, yeah, there is something wrong with my personal laptop. I tried another browser, Google Chrome, and it worked like magic. So with Google Chrome, it works, while with Safari, it didn't. Just something to remember, because it was loading and you obviously get stressed and you need to check in for your exam on time. Second thing that happened, it is very weird, and I know that the weirdest things obviously have tendency to happen when you don't expect them. My Wi-Fi was disconnected during the exam. My Wi-Fi, just a quick background, never disconnects. I never have problems with my Wi-Fi normally. But Alice, I had this problem during my exam. I had 20 minutes left. I was worried, but I wasn't too worried, because I already had the first run and I was almost finishing my second run through the questions. And I was like, okay, if it's submitted, I think I might pass. But there is possibility that I might fail, because there were some questions that I didn't review again to have a second look at them. My application wouldn't be able to connect. So I left the room. Remember that our phones are turned off. I left the room and I rushed to the router. I restarted the router. I asked my family members and they told me that they don't have Wi-Fi either, so it's not only my laptop. And I restarted the router. And then the router started working. I came back to the room. I restarted my laptop, I went back to the OnView application, entered my code, and when I logged in, the internet was working finally. My proctor called me through the internet, through the application, and I had to show on web camera my desk again, everything again, and I had to take photo again. And I was like, then what is gonna happen? Because I had 20 minutes and they said we will reinstate your exam, you shouldn't be worried. And I had around 19 minutes left there, so more or less I lost only 1 minute, which was very good, but it was obviously stressful and a bit like I don't know, the exam process is already stressful, and when you get your Wi-Fi not working in the middle of it, it wasn't great. So as you can imagine, for the rest of the day I was feeling very down. I didn't have any energy to do anything, and I had a lot of adrenaline in my blood. So yeah, it was all in all, it was a nice experience. It took me longer than usual to prepare for this certification, but I really liked it. It included a lot of important use cases. And not only for the sake of certification, for the sake of myself, for the sake of my technical acumen. Now, when I see different scenarios in cloud, I can judge them better. I can judge the solutions better. And I guess that's the role of the cloud architect, no? To be able to put everything together in a way that everything is working smoothly and as it should. So in the comment section down below, let me know what you think about this exam. Are you planning to take it, or are you not planning to take it, and why? Also, let me know what, if you've taken this exam, what is your plan for your next examinations. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and to like my videos, because the YouTube algorithm is very fussy. So please help me to get this algorithm to like my channel. Have a nice day. Thank you for being with me today, and see you in the next video. Bye!